I know you all came here for 5-hour-long videos about beloved children's franchises, but how about half an hour about a musical no one's heard of? Hi, my name is Haley Whipjack. Welcome to the channel, all of you. There are so many new folks here, and I do believe I've been suffering from a virtual sort of stage fright. But stage fright or no, I'm so happy to have you in my auditorium. We're at, I think, 17,000 subscribers now. Thank you for being here. That's a very big number. I tried to record a very different video for you, I did, but I really need to lean into my niche and my passion, which is rambling about things that I love and think about so much, and dragging you all in with me. And of course, if you've missed me these past few months or so without any YouTube feed content, I have been posting long-form content on my Patreon, an extra video every month. I just posted this month's. It is over an hour long and it's about the Magnus Archives. So if that's what you want, you can get extra there. I was wrong the whole time. Today's topic is The Dolls of New Albion. The Dolls of New Albion is a 4-act, 90-minute steampunk opera musical that was written in 2012 by Paul Shapira. And it's my everything. That was a lot of words. Let's break some of them down. This was written by Paul Shapira, a man who has written so many musicals, many of which are set in the futuristic steampunk, dieselpunk, atompunk setting of New Albion. Not all of them are. He has also, in fact, written Slenderman, the musical. I never really got into that one. I don't think it takes place in New Albion. Pretty sure that's not where Slenderman lives. I could be wrong. The Dolls of New Albion came out in 2012. Its sequel, The New Albion Radio Hour, a dieselpunk opera, came out in, I believe, 2013. And then I think the next one came out right away in 2014, The New Albion Guide to Antique Consciousnesses. That one's called an atompunk opera. The technology's getting greater and greater as they go. And then there was a fourth one to complete the tetralogy that's sort of like an epilogue called The Room Beneath New Albion. I have listened to all four of those. The only one that has infected my brain so hard was The Dolls of New Albion. And I think I know why that is. I discovered The Dolls of New Albion when I was a sophomore in high school and would listen to it and obsess over it when I was supposed to be doing other more productive things in school. This was like an escapism thing for me, and I listened to the same 90-minute musical on loop. And I like the other ones, but it wasn't my escapism musical. You understand? We all do it. I'm sure. It's very normal to feel that way about media. I know it. Today I'm going to tell you the story of what happens within Dolls of New Albion. I will be playing occasional clips of recorded stage performances that people put on in this show. I would recommend you go and watch those stage performances if this interests you, even though I'm going to be spoiling the entirety of the musical for you. Musicals are not just their plots, okay? Watch somebody put on this show. I personally prefer just listening to the album recording, the original version that came out in 2012, because that's how I discovered it. But I don't think that's normal. I think it's a lot more average to enjoy watching an entire play. I just like seeing the movies in my head. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, like I was trying to say, I'm going to be showing you clips, and I will be linking those performances below so that you can watch them yourself. The ones that I'm going to be showing you are available for free. This is a passion project for a lot of people. It was a passion project for Paul Shapira, who wrote it. It is a passion project for people who put it on. It is still... There is such a devoted little cult following to this. The Shapiraverse is fascinating. It is. And I'll talk a little bit more about it at the very end, but I do need to tell you about what happens in The Dolls of New Albion, okay? Content warnings. This musical is about death and necromancy, so characters will die, and they might not exactly enjoy what comes after. It is still very fun, and we're gonna have a fun time, and it's a great musical. Are you ready? Broad strokes. The Dolls of New Albion is a 4-act musical about the city of New Albion. Each act covers a different generation as things change politically, technologically, socially, and we see that happen over the course of this musical. We do that by following 4 generations of the McAllister family and how they interact with and change the society and the city of New Albion as it drastically changes from act to act. Now, we are following the McAllister family the whole time. I don't like the McAllisters. There is, however, one character in this musical that I would kill and die for. His name is Jasper. So I'm going to be telling you the story of this musical through the lens of Jasper, as though you are Jasper. Because I think you being Jasper is our easiest way to get you invested in the nonsense going on right away. Also, these are gears that I drew. I don't know if you can tell. I am an artiste because it's steampunk, and steampunk is gears, basically. Okay, so let's get in the right frame of mind. You are Jasper. You are Jasper, no last name given. And I'm really sorry about that. I would love to give you one, but I cannot think of a single dynasty that deserves you. And at the same time, I really want to call you Afton for the meme. I won't, unless you want. You're Jasper now, so you can let me know. You can decide. We're going to have some little family trees, some connections building up here as a visual aid for you. You are Jasper. We are pre-Act 1. Okay, pre-Act 1. You live in the beautiful city of New Albion. There's an incredible prelude to the whole musical that has like nothing to do with the main plot, and it's just setting the stage and talking about a gambler and a monk playing cards underneath the city as the city kind of forms itself around them. There's a lot of really tiny, nonsensical, interesting things just thrown in to these lyrics, and you're like, oh, okay, but it really doesn't affect you, Jasper.
That is how the city of New Albion was born.
And we're telling your story right now. So Jasper, let me tell you about something that happened when you were in college. Jasper, when you were in college, you met a woman named Annabelle McAllister. She was fine. You guys had a connection. There were sparks there. You had like a romantic moment. And it was all good. And then she got kicked out of university. And I don't know if you found out why. I'll tell you why. She got kicked out of university for stealing cadavers, a normal thing to do that normal people do. So you didn't talk to her anymore. But you guys weren't serious. You weren't close. It was like a romantic moment, and then she got kicked out of school. So you probably didn't think about her after that. You went on and you lived your life. You got a job. I don't know what it was, but I'm sure you were a wonderful, productive member of society. You got married. Your wife doesn't get a name. No first name, no last name, nothing. But you were married. You can, let's name her right now. Your wife's name was Cheryl, and you were very happy together. You and Cheryl even had a daughter. Her name is Faye. She's a perfect little angel. You're absolutely enamored with her, deeply in love with her and your little family unit. The perfect little family. This is New Albion's finest. Everything is going well and will forever. Until the accident. Yes, my dear Jasper, I am so sorry. You die in an unspecified accident. And that should be where this ends. Very short musical for you. It's not. This is actually just pre-Act 1. So it's gonna get bumpy from here. Let's go back to Annabelle McAllister. Also, you're dead. Just to help you remember, I made a little note for you. Annabelle McAllister, who was kicked out of college for that aforementioned cadaver stealing, was obsessed with you. Uh-oh. You were sort of her only bar for a romantic moment. She never really had a romantic connection before or after you. And so she put your memory, that one memory she had with you, up on a little pedestal and believed that you two were soulmates. You might be asking, did she know you were married with a child? Yes, she did. Yes, she did know that. But I guess she thought that was sort of like a blip. That was sort of a non-issue because you guys were always going to end up together. You're soulmates. That's what happens to soulmates, is that someday you would run into her on the street and you'd realize, oh my God, what have I been doing with my life? And you would leave your wife and child. It's really romantic. That didn't happen, obviously. You lived your charmed life with your wife, your child. You had a great time, and then you died in that unspecified accident. I'm really sorry about that, by the way. My condolences to your unnamed estate. That must have been really hard for you. And I wish it didn't have to get harder. But you see, Annabelle McAllister was doing things to those corpses. She was figuring out how to bring them back. And she has yours. That's right, ladies and germs. Annabelle McAllister was raising up the dead.
Annabelle McAllister is raising up the dead. Clever little Annabella with her clever head.
So you, Jasper, get brought back to life. Kind of. You've been revived. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Except you got pulled from that peaceful little afterlife you were floating in. What, were you enjoying Elysium? And your soul was placed into like a mannequin, like a mechanical facsimile of a human being. Think rusty gears and joints. Think unable to speak. Think can't move. That's what your soul is. Fully aware, fully conscious. That's where you're at. Ain't she so sweet? And you get to sit inside this mechanical mannequin, watching Annabelle McAllister have full delusions that she has brought you back and you two are in love. She is like bringing your mannequin about town. She's taking you on walks.
And all you love does not love you. I have a dolly and he goes with me outside.
And you're just in there. You're just experiencing it. What you can do, you realize eventually, is while you cannot speak, you can sort of take radio signals and chop them up a little bit. Kind of like Bumblebee from the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Now that I'm thinking about it, Paul Shapiro, are you a Transformers fan? Let me know. These goggles do not want to stay on my head. Not at all. So to break Annabelle out of her weird romantic soulmate delusions, you managed to splice together a message basically saying, I was really enjoying Elysium in the afterlife. Why did you bring me here? Like making it very clear that you don't want this. You don't want this. You didn't ask for it. And she stumbles into a deep depression.
Why'd you bring me here again?
Her entire reality is shattered with that. I like to imagine that you felt a little bad. I would feel a little bad. And maybe that's just the people pleaser in me, but I would feel a little bad breaking someone out of their delusion that they did the right thing by tormenting me endlessly. Like, good for me speaking up for myself and advocating in that way, but also, sorry, babe. Annabelle has an entire sad song about how sad she is and how she never fit in and nobody ever liked her and now you don't like her either. And she comes to the conclusion that the correct thing to do, the way to rectify this entire situation, is to put you back to rest. So she smashes you and the mannequin you live in to pieces with an axe. There had to be a cleaner way to do it. In the arms of an angel. That's actually very funny because Annabelle calls Jasper her angel. She calls him her angel. She brought him back from the dead in a form of eternal torment. And he was like, oh my God, my angel. Stop it. I feel bad for her. However,
You could have been my angel, my angel.
so you're dead again, back in Elysium. I'm very excited for you about that. I feel like that's a much better way for you to be at the moment. Really sorry that your last memories had to be a terrible unspecified accident, and then the second time around was you getting destroyed with an axe. Not a good track record, my man. Hope you get to stay there. The craziest part of this is that Annabelle gets married afterwards. Like, what the hell? You thought we were soulmates to the extent that you brought me back from the dead to put me in a weird little mannequin so we could be together? And then when you realized that was not a good call, you found somebody else? I did not think you were well adjusted enough for that. How do you make both of those decisions? Weird. Annabelle's husband does not get a name, just like how Jasper's wife does not get a name. We'll name him right now. Annabelle's husband was named Bartholomew. Great. And Bartholomew and Annabelle have a son. Annabelle and Bartholomew's son's name is Edgar. We are now into Act 2 of the musical. Edgar is our second generation of McAllisters. And Annabelle dies when he's 10 years old. So she cannot go around being a menace any longer. Second generation means first generation is wiped out. Sorry, guys. So you're still Jasper. So what the fuck does this kid have to do with you? Let me tell you. No, he's not secretly your kid. I was actually kind of worried the first time that I listened to this musical that there was going to be like a twist where it was like secretly Annabelle used Jasper's DNA and Edgar was Jasper's kid, because of all of her really hinged and standard decision making that she had portrayed so far. It just sounded like something she would do. It's not. Again, she made the weirdly healthy choice to completely move on and have a regular family, and like she loved her kid and her kid loved her. They had a great relationship. I don't get it. Like, good for her. Why'd you have to do all that to him though? Yeah, sorry, Jasper. You are here primarily for other people's character development and to suffer. You're here to suffer. Edgar McAllister, and we'll call him McAllister. We're going to give him his mom's last name because he deserves it. Edgar McAllister finds Annabelle's old science shit in the attic and thinks, oh my god, I should start a business. A business of what? Necromancy. He finds a box of his mother's scientific regrets and goes, necromancy is the perfect business opportunity. She had to have journal entries, right, about how much she regretted it and how it didn't work and the soul she brought back wasn't happy, all of that. And pure capitalism infected his brain. He's pure capitalism. The first thing he does is think about how he can monetize grieving. There's a whole song that he has about like upgrades that he's making to these soul container dolls that he's mass producing. He's like, now they come in pretty colors. Now you can bring your grandmother back in a fun lavender shell. Can she talk to you? No, they can't communicate. But she's in there. She's probably happy. And if she wasn't, how would you know? It's literally dragging souls out of the afterlife to be projected upon. I hate this man. I hate him more than I hate his mom. Because his mom I feel bad for, right? Annabelle was clearly going through it constantly. Had to have been just going through it at all times. The fuck is his excuse, huh?
I'm building a store where your dead ones can be brought back to you folks once more. With all this success, I can offer new deals. Their bodies now come in different colors and feels.
So Edgar McAllister gets filthy rich. Filthy rich. He is like in charge of all of New Albion by selling people these dolls. They call them dolls. It's the dolls of New Albion. Selling people these dolls to bring their loved ones back to life. So no one ever has to die. They're like, we've solved it. They can't even talk. Oh, it makes me so sad. It makes me so sad when I think about it. But again, what does this have to do with you? You're not gonna like it. Edgar McAllister had his heart broken, see, because the woman he loved left him for another man named Siloff? Siloff. She left him. Him! Can you imagine? paragon of virtue and kindness that he is. And so he thought to himself, well, how do I win her back? I forcibly bring her father back from the dead, and I say that she can't go see him unless she marries me. And she can't bring him back on her own outside of me, because we can't bring him back twice. I already brought him back, put him in a little shell, put him in a little doll, and yeah, I'm so sorry to tell you. Yeah, he was in love with your daughter. Oh, I don't like it either.
And I have a surprise now. Your dear long dead dad. I have taken the liberty of bringing him back.
So, you're a doll again, and your daughter is in an incredibly unhappy marriage with an authoritarian capitalist who thinks it's a good idea to monetize people's grieving and suffering. So, like, things have been better. For sure, things have been better. And that's Act 2. That's what happens in Act 2. I just get mad. Act 2 is I get mad. The act. There should be a creeping dread within you when you realized I said there was going to be 4 generations of McAllisters we're going through, and there's only this one here to make another one, and yeah, your daughter has a child with the bad man. His name is Byron, and I do like Byron. I've complicated feelings about Byron. Let's step back a bit and look at New Albion as a whole right now. It started as a pretty regular post-industrialist society, steampunk-esque. We're big into gears and machines and metal and bronze. But then we brought in the necromancy wizards, basically. All of a sudden we have wizards. There's 2 of them, and they just bring people back to life. It's very... they don't ever call them wizards, but they definitely should. They're definitely wizards. So we are now dealing with a post-necromancy society where the streets are lined with dolls. Remnants of the loved ones people brought back who are not necessarily being taken care of by those loved ones, because it's really difficult to actually emotionally attach to something that you just like think has your lost brother in it, that cannot talk to you, that does not act like your brother, that in no way resembles your brother. It's just like a 6 foot tall, skinny little mannequin. And so yeah, some of them are just getting thrown out onto the streets, and also everybody's grieving process is all ruined. Politically, we're in a weird situation because, laws were never built with necromancy in mind. And that is something that I do believe is wrong about this culture. So Byron McAllister, we're just going to keep calling them McAllisters. Byron McAllister does not like his dad very much. Surprise! I don't like your dad very much either. We are on the same page, me and Byron. Byron has complicated feelings about Jasper, who lives in their house. He's his grandfather. He lives in their house. And, okay, so the first time I listened to the musical, it very much, to me, read that Byron was in romantic love with the dead man and the doll. That's what my brain did to it. And I don't know, that's not right. I don't think that's right. I do think he has a lot of weird feelings about the doll, and a lot of them I believe are just projections about how he feels about his actual dad, who's a terrible authoritarian capitalist monster. And Jasper can't be any of those things because he cannot communicate. He cannot move. He just exists there in an utter and complete form of passivity that Byron can just project what he needs onto that. I don't think he's romantically in love with his grandfather. He does talk about having love and being in love with Jasper. You're Jasper. I kind of forgot that thread. I'm so sorry. I'm getting really worked up. I think he just projects the father that he wishes that he had. But he calls Jasper his angel, which is what Annabelle called him, so I think that is part of I think that's part of what made it cross in my brain. Don't use the same pet names that the woman who thought they were soulmates used. If you don't want me to think that you're weirdly in love with your grandfather. Okay? Okay.
Jasper, love is why I do in the movement. The love I never get from you in the movement.
Byron is also part of a social and political and religious movement called voodoo punk. So that's the whole other thing. The voodoo punk movement in the Shapira-verse is a sort of mixture of like Celtic myth and like actual voodoo practice, like the Haitian practice of voodoo, and steampunk things and necromancy and just all of this kind of sort of squished together. And the voodoo punks in this musical are new. It's a very new idea. They become a more entrenched thing later on in this tetralogy and in the Shapira-verse overall. But here, the voodoo punks just started. Necromancy's brand new. So mostly they're just like a bunch of teenagers and young adults doing drugs around a fire and singing little songs. The songs are catchy. So they lean further into being a political movement when they have the grand idea to have one of the dolls run for mayor. Guess who wins? Not mayor, but guess who wins running for mayor? You do.
So run for our doll and throw it away. You don't need a master of velvet. We'll take all your work, tell you what to do. We'll solve it, not mean you'll not be your right. You'll ride your work, you'll save your life.
Byron is going to have you, his grandfather, who again can't move or talk, run for mayor. The voodoo punks are doing this as a political stunt, but they also very much believe they could win because there is a large sense of dissatisfaction in New Albion. People want to throw out the entire system. Things are not working. The streets are lined with the living dead. Something has to change. And so by voting in one of the dolls, people would essentially be voting for make something brand new. Throw it all out. Make me something different. This isn't working. So that is more of what they're running on than like this ghost really knows how to run a government. You know? Here is a fun fact about you, Jasper, is that you have been spending the last God knows how many years, 20, 25, 30 years, being alive, suffering, figuring out how to pull those radio signals and splice them up in an entirely brand new way. You have been learning how to make music, to actually share how you feel and what you miss. And you get a whole song! Let's go! I've been learning how to communicate the whole time. Your song is beautiful! It's beautiful. It's a song about Elysium, the afterlife.
Silent, silent lullaby.
In this song, Elysian Nights, you sing about how Elysium is the place where all loneliness ends, where all guilt and sorrow disappears. It is essentially pleading to the society to stop this, to stop holding on to the dead this way, that people need to be released, and that it's not scary, that the afterlife here is canonically soft and friendly, and maybe there's not so much like awareness, but there is nothing bad, and you're just connected in a big soup, and it's beautiful. And I think it makes a lot of sense as your statement for becoming mayor, your speech for running for office. Obviously, you don't want to be fucking mayor. You would be naturally dead at this point if it weren't for the accident and the axes. The accident. So you sing this beautiful song about Elysium, about how it's lovely there, about how you would like very much to go back there. Please. And it backfires. And it's not your fault. Trigger warning here for a brief discussion on suicide. It is very plot relevant. We're not getting very into it. The show doesn't get very into it either. Byron has a friend named Amelia. Byron and Amelia are sort of the leaders of the voodoo punk movement here in New Albion. But Amelia is a very sad lady. She loves what she's doing with the voodoo punks, but she is really depressed. She has an abusive father and not a lot of prospects outside of what she's currently doing. And she sits with Jasper's song and comes to the conclusion that what he's trying to say is that Elysium is better, that there's no bad feelings there. So she takes her own life. And her note that she leaves behind is just the lyrics of Jasper's song. I do not believe that we are meant to think that Jasper caused this in any way. I think it's just, it really resonated with her. And that's what she left in her note. However, the people of New Albion think that this was Jasper's fault. He cannot catch a break. You cannot catch a single break. You were just saying that you wish people would stop bringing you back to life. And now they are accusing you of killing a young woman. There is a massive outcry against all dolls in New Albion. There are bonfires across the city where all of these reanimated living dead are being thrown into them and gotten rid of. Byron is running through the streets looking for Jasper, shouting, "Where's my angel?" And he does find Jasper, and he does manage to safely harbor Jasper. Everybody else, or mostly everybody else, who got revived gets sent back to Elysium. Let's word it like that. Not you, though. Sorry, man. And that is the end of Act 3. So New Albion has gone from pretty normal to full of necromancy all the time to outlawing necromancy after a political religious movement that wanted to make a dead man into the mayor. They're having a weird few years over there. Welcome to the 4th generation. Priscilla McAllister is the daughter of Byron and his trophy wife. I don't know how he got a trophy wife. Surely he was, like, ousted socially, right? With the mass outcry against the dolls that he wanted to put at the head of government. I don't know. Says he got himself a trophy wife and they had a daughter named Priscilla. I do believe that in Act 4, Byron and his wife are both. I think. I didn't realize I was holding a pink marker. Their notes get to be in pink. Priscilla and Jasper, live their days in a basement, in hiding. Because now New Albion is fully a police state. They veered really hard the other direction. They went from all necromancy all the time to no necromancy ever. And the way that it's worded, it kind of sounds like no mourning. They said the lyrics, I believe, are any memento of the dead is forbidden. So, like, pictures or what? I wouldn't be surprised if they completely overcorrected. You're just not allowed to grieve. That sounds about right for these guys. So Jasper has to be in hiding because he is not allowed to exist. He would be immediately destroyed if he were to step outside. I keep forgetting you're Jasper. I'm like too into it. You're Jasper. You're gonna get destroyed. But Jasper can't just like turn himself in because as much as you might be ready to be done, if you were to turn in yourself, Priscilla's also going to get in trouble because she knows about you, because she lives in the same house as you, because she doesn't have anything left or anybody anyway. Like, they would just also, 86 her at the same time. Jasper and Priscilla play cards. Jasper, also, good news. You can, talk now. You've had a really long time to splice those radio bits together. You can sing in duets. And you're really good at it. You're not so good at playing cards. It's got to be really difficult when you're just little jerky movement man. You and your great-granddaughter do not live a great life, but you do live a life. But Priscilla finds herself more and more wondering if all of this is worth your eternal torment. And she comes to the conclusion that it's not. And calls the cops.
Hello, police. Felony. You need to see.
You try to convince her to run, to try and escape, to let you just take the full fall since you're the one who's not allowed to be alive. But Priscilla does not have anything else, and she wants to spend her last moments with you, the only family that she's got left, and really the only family that she has ever known. And then the cops show up. There are 3 soldiers that break into your basement, and in the arms of an angel. It's all finally over. You can go back to Elysium and you can take Priscilla with you. All of this, because Annabelle thought you two were in love. You didn't even do anything to make her think that. You got married to somebody else. Society was radically changed 3 times because Annabelle McAllister had one delusion. However, Jasper, I have some great news. Soldier 7285, one of the 3 soldiers that visited your home, did not actually fire his weapon. The other 2 did. The other 2 did many times, but Soldier 7285 did not, because he saw how much love there was between you and Priscilla, and this sort of selfless act of compassion that she was committing, and it radicalized him. And in the sequel, we find out that he goes on to tear apart the entire government. So I guess it was all worth it in the end. Was it? Something about this story has stuck in my head for like a decade. I shouldn't be allowed to say that as an amount of time that I've known about things. Whoa. Sometimes I just sit and I think about Jasper and how he asked for none of this. He was dragged into other people's drama over and over again. He was brought back to life. He was dragged into the relationship drama of his daughter. He was dragged into running for mayor. And he was dragged into his great-granddaughter's demise. And, she was the best of all of them. He didn't ask for any of this. I love him. Like I've said, Dolls of Albion is the first in a tetralogy. I would really recommend listening to this musical. It's only 90 minutes, and it's the whole thing. It's an opera. It's all sung. So you can just listen to the original recording, or you can go watch some of those stage productions that I will be linking. And if you like it, there are 3 more in this exact series that I haven't spoiled for you at all. Not even a little bit. When I said that soldier tears down the government, that happens in between. sections 1 and 2 that is in between Dolls of New Albion and the New Albion Radio Hour. So you can listen to the Diesel Punk opera entirely unspoiled and the Atom Punk opera entirely unspoiled. Paul Shapiro has a lot of musicals and they're really high concept. And I am obsessed with that. I think it's so amazing when somebody is so devoted to creating. He has such strong visions for things. And they're so weird. I love when things get so weird. Everything I just said is squished into 90 minutes of music. And a lot of the understanding of what's going on, you gotta use your little brain movie for, especially if you're just listening to the soundtrack. I don't know what Jasper looks like. I don't know what any of them look like. But I have such strong feelings about the world that he's created and the characters that he's put into it. And it's so cool. I think there is nothing more important in this entire world than supporting folks making weird art. Especially folks who do not have like major acclaim. Like, I'm a big Wes Anderson girly. Asteroid City is probably my favorite movie I've seen so far this year. And he makes weird art, and everyone loves Wes Anderson. He is well known for what he does. It's not radical to support Wes Anderson. He's good. But if you find somebody making very weird and personal and passionate things, you have to help them foster that. You do not need feedback to create art, but it is difficult to make art in a vacuum. And I'm so happy that Paul Shapiro has kind of found his community and his niche and that he has people at his back. He had a 2-day live show a month ago in Minneapolis. You know, right after I don't live in Minneapolis anymore. Paul, do you have something to say to me? I gotta take these off. I can't handle it. Ugh. I've had a ponytail in this entire time. Did you even know it? I think you're gonna love this. Because it bangs. I'm not out here writing musicals and stage plays. I am just creating little bits of breakdown content to keep you company while you do laundry and wash your dishes. And by God, I want to keep doing that for you. So I'm getting over my stage fright. I'm declaring it. I want to take a minute to thank my patrons for supporting me and what I do. You can see a lot of their names here, but I also want to shout out Lizard, Debbie Lown, A Bitter Taste of, AJ Holian, Amalia, Atlas, Beard Acknowledge, Box of Cherubs, Daniel, Devin Ellert, Eli Gibson, Foolery with Nori, Infinity Girl, Jane, John Haynes, Jordy LaForge, JT Frazier, Kathleen, Carissa, Lawson, Lula, Martine, Mary R, Nemo, Octave, Oski the Bard, Ollie D, Rebecca B, Unholy Fish, and Ungvi Leo. Thank you so much. If you would like to join this very cool club that we're making, you can find me on patreon.com/HaleyWhipjack. I put out an extra long video every single month, even if I miss some months posting here, as well as weekly pictures of my cat who did not want to join me very much for this. He is sleeping right off screen. And also updates on what I'm doing. I am currently I'm in the watching phase of a very long, shaping up to be a very long, my longest ever maybe, video about ABC's hit disaster, Once Upon a Time. Boy, is that a long goddamn show, though. So, you know, it's gonna take a while. You might have to hear me talk about a lot of nonsense before we get to that point. I hope you did something productive while this video was on. Thank you very much. I'll catch you on the next one. Maybe I just keep seeing how niche I can go. Just things that less and less people have heard of until eventually I'm talking about just my own imaginary friends. Would you even notice?